Tennessee. It was what I had coming to me.
Big smile on Soul Gravy's face. Welcome, folks.
That's
You
right.
just arrived at the Texas to Tennessee podcast. My name is Steve. To my upper left is our friend Soul Gravy. And tonight we are very excited to have this young man on joining us. His name is BJ Jamison. BJ, welcome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. If you don't mind, BJ, just take a couple minutes and maybe give us a little bit of your backstory.
Yeah, so, my name's BJ Jamison. I'm from ranch north of Ashby, Nebraska, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, close to nothing. So, but I grew up on a ranch north of Ashby for 18 years of my life, doing just about everything from moving cows to working on machinery to a little bit of haying and stuff. And then I had gotten into music right around, I think, when I was 13 or 14 years old. And because my sister had always played guitar and sang for a lot of her younger years, and I never did or I had any influence in it. And so finally, when she moved off to college, she had her guitars and stuff at home. So I was like, well, I'll just see if I can maybe figure something out. And after, just watching YouTube videos and just kind of messing around with it, I started playing just different songs and stuff. And then I got really hooked on a lot of Johnny Cash and playing pretty much every Johnny Cash song I could. I got entered in a local talent show there in Hyannis, I think right when I was probably pretty sure 14 at the time there. I got second. So not the like grand win prize of first, but got second there, and then kind of decided I'd keep going with it a little farther. And then down the road, I got with a band out of Merriman, Nebraska, a guy named Brett Burris, who's currently in my band now. He had a band at the time, and I was up at Cherry County Fair in Valentine, and I was watching them, and I asked if I could go, or I just told him I had a guitar similar to him. And he was like, so, well, what do you play? And so he had me come up on stage, and I played Folsom Prison Blues. And then I kind of found how to contact him, and he asked if I wanted to come play with him at a couple more gigs. And from there, it just kind of went on for about a 4-year period of playing with him, just all around from, South Dakota and Wyoming and a lot of Nebraska there. And then he retired just a couple years ago, and then I was needing a fiddle player, and he played fiddle and guitar and sang. So when I was getting my band together, I was like, well, I need a fiddle player. So I took him out of retirement. So,
Nice.
and he's really a guy I can put a lot of credit to for getting me into music.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously it's always helpful to have friends that maybe have already, been down the road, so to speak. So
Yeah.
shout out to him. All right, BJ, we're gonna play a game here. We always do this bit here at the beginning of the show, and we like to quiz our friend Soul Gravy on famous folks from your part of the world. So you mentioned Ashby, Hyannis area, which for those of you that aren't familiar would be in western central Nebraska, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Is that
Yeah.
fair? Okay.
Yeah.
So from the town of Hyannis, we have two well-known folks. First person is Chuck Hayward. Soul Gravy. What is Chuck Hayward famous for?
I'm not sure. I know a Charles Hayward, but I don't think that's the same person. So
It's
no.
different.
Yes.
It's a different one. So Chuck Hayward is a well-known stuntman. He actually was stuntman for John Wayne.
Okay. All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Pretty cool. He did a lot else, but that was probably what he's best known for. And then Skeeter Thurston. Any guess on who Skeeter Thurston is?
No. I'm guessing.
Think Decatur, Texas.
Yes, I was going to say with a name like Skeeter, I'm going cowboy.
Yeah, he was a bronc rider.
Okay.
And I think his son actually is a pretty well-known bronc
Yep,
rider as
Zeke.
well. Zeke, yeah, that's right. So shout out to the Thurstons. We're going to expand the list a little bit more just because I think it'll be fun. So we're going to go to famous Nebraskans.
Okay.
So the tagline for Nebraska is the good life, I think. First off, Johnny Carson. What's he famous for?
TV show.
TV show, all right. Marlon Brando.
Yeah, familiar with his work.
Okay. Fred Astaire.
It's a damn good dancer.
He's a good dancer. Some Soul likes to do on his lives all the time.
Definitely
Shout
all
out.
the time. Yeah.
The 38th president was born in Nebraska. Any guesses on
No,
who that might be?
That's nice. Congratulations on him.
Gerald Ford.
Okay.
Maybe the most famous Cardinals pitcher of all time. I think probably.
What era?
Would have been pretty big in the 60s.
In the 60s. Oh, goodness. What is his name? I should know this.
It's Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
I think they had to lower the mound for him. And he was just an absolute beast. Warren Buffett.
Yeah, familiar with him.
Yeah, he gives good sound financial advice. Montgomery Clift.
Man, I know that name, and I can't remember why I do.
He's a pretty well-known, I would say, old school actor.
Okay.
Been a little bit since Montgomery's. But he's kind of a heartthrob type, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
So that's why I'm familiar with him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nick Nolte.
Oh, yeah. Familiar
Nick
with
Nolte's
him.
from Nebraska.
And the Wild Looks. Yeah.
Yep. 48 Hours, underrated movie. Hilary Swank.
Not familiar.
She's an actress. I think she won an Academy Award with Clint Eastwood for that, where she was the boxer.
Okay. I've seen that movie.
Sorry, I don't know the name of the movie.
$1 Million Baby? No.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, go me.
All right, Malcolm X.
Familiar with his work? Yeah.
From Nebraska. Yeah.
Oh,
Got a couple others here for you. 4 more.
okay.
Dick Cheney.
Familiar with his work?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Advisor. Not sure what his role was with George W. Bush's presidency. Gabrielle Union.
I know that name. Why do I know the name?
She's a famous actress, lovely young lady. She's married to Dwayne Wade, if that helps.
Okay.
This man allegedly drank more beverages than anybody ever on a flight. A famous baseball player. It's a story. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, the person that I remember a story similar to that with Babe Ruth, but I don't think this is your.
Yeah, I think that was hot dogs. It could be Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs, born in Nebraska.
I'll have to look up that story. I was a Wade fan back in the day.
All right, well, it's a pretty impressive story. And then lastly, Andy Roddick.
Yes. Yeah.
What's he do?
Work. He was a tennis player, correct?
Yeah, it's a dead giveaway. I'm going to put one tennis player on here. So.
Yeah.
And so, other fun fact: one of the best golf courses in the world is about an hour, I think, from BJ. Sand Hills Golf Club.
Yep.
It's a really well known.
Mullen.
Yep, super well known golf course. I can't.
It's got a.
Can't remember who designed it, but it's one of the famous golfers.
Yep. Right along the Dismal River. It's got an airport and everything for it.
Yeah, it's super cool. You should just go take a look at the pictures of it. But anyway, BJ, thanks for letting us play that game. It's always fun.
Of course.
Makes Soul Gravy sweat for a couple minutes. So, all right, the strangest question of the day. I'll go ahead and get it out of the way. This is called the pie question. So I'm going to give you a pie, and I'd like you to divide it up into 4 sections. And the 4 sections have to do with parts of the music business. So the first pie is the creation of the art or the creation of the song. So songwriting, whatnot. The second part is recording. Third part is performing. So performing your art. And then the fourth part is everything else that doesn't fit into one of those four sections. So most generally like running your individual music business.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think as an independent artist, you have your hands in a lot of different things. So, which of those four areas do you think you naturally gravitate towards? Is there one area where you go, okay, that's my sweet spot?
It'd probably be the performance part of it.
Okay. How soon did you figure that out? Did you know that kind of right away when you got up on stage and kind of knew like, hey, this is where I feel at home?
That's kind of where I was wanting to be when I first started playing. Like, I didn't want to be the main guy. I just wanted to be the cool guitar player in the back. And then I ended up starting to, they were like, can you sing? I'm like, well, kind of. And so I ended up singing. But I mean, it's always just been kind of my natural spot was on a stage.
Nice. And then which of those, I guess, other areas do you feel like maybe you have a lot of interest in that area, but it may not be your strongest area?
It'd kind of be a toss up right in between that, the creating and then the recording part.
Okay.
Just kind of right, like about half and half between those. Because recording the songs, it's kind of almost mixed in together. Like when you are creating it, you're changing some things mid studio session and everything. So it's like, oh, I kind of want this or I kind of want that, and so it'd be a toss up between the two.
That sounds good. In terms of production of your music, do you have anybody specifically that you've been working with?
A little bit, yeah. We've been working with Dave Gibson out of Nashville a lot,
Okay.
for just getting like song wise, because he's an amazing writer and he knows pretty much everybody in Nashville.
Makes
And
sense.
so that's been a lot of help just having him. I mean, he's always just shooting songs to us and different stuff and helping us out with that.
Okay, cool. Do you mind me asking how you all got hooked up with Dave?
So a couple years, I think it was a couple years ago, uh, we always had in mind to record a song called Country Music Church, which was one of Dave's songs that he had wrote with another guy out here. And we got in contact with him, asked if we could have permission to do the song and put our own cut on it, and we did. And we wanted to go out to Nashville and meet him and just kind of thank him and just pretty much as an appreciation. And once we got there and we met up with him, I mean, we pretty much just hit it off and had an amazing time out there in Nashville. And then we got hooked up with him and we came out with our whole Whiskey Broken Heart EP with a lot of his songs he wrote and songs that, I mean, he knew of, because like one of the songs specifically, Working on the Road, was my big song I really related to a lot just because of how much I was always driving, whether it was to a band gig or just driving across the state or truck driving. And so, and he knew a guy who had a song that was pretty much perfect for it.
That's awesome. So Soul Gravy, you'll appreciate this. Dave wrote Queen of Memphis, Confederate Railroad, and Daddy Never Was a Cadillac Kind, among a bunch of others, but those were two that stood out to me.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
Also wrote for Steve Warner, Conway Twitty, Tanya Tucker, Pam Tillis, Alabama, Joe Diffie. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
So I had a question as far as that. Let's go way back to that talent show. Do you remember the person that won it, like off the top of your head? Is that something that you?
I
you
do.
Okay. I was like, thinking that would be motivation from now on. Like,
Kind of, yeah.
you know how
'Cause
athletes use use that second place thing to try to outdo the first place
yeah.
person. That is anyway. I just thought that would be kind of funny to
My friend
actually.
Kyle lost 5 years in a row for the Oklahoma State fiddle championship. I probably got that wrong. Anyway, well, it's his story, so I probably shouldn't tell it. But he did lose 5 years in a row, and he's doing fine now. But yeah, it is what it is. I think that still sticks with him because this has probably been 25, 30 years since that happened, and he still talks about it. So
Right, exactly.
yeah.
All right, so as far as when you were playing out and playing the covers and everything, were you already thinking about original music, or was that were you just happy with the covers? When did the original music start to creep in?
It always, I mean, I was playing for a while, and then once I got kind of familiar with playing and just being on a stage and stuff, and then my mind actually started to kind of develop that creativity part. And then, I mean, just kind of writing songs that I felt that I could write basically stories or just true feelings. I started to write kind of around, I mean, when I was probably 16, 17, and just started to kind of slowly just get into stuff. And I mean, I, I'm not the type who can sit down and just write a whole song in a
Hmm.
sitting. It's just like, I'll wake up and be like, I need to write this down before I forget it.
Right. So, as far as your writing process, I mean, are you just kind of all over the place as far as are you a notes in your phone, hum a melody,
Yeah.
uh, just both of those? Or are you melody driven, lyric driven, or any of it?
It's kind of just whatever comes to mind because I mean, it was a couple weeks ago, I think. I had something I was thinking about because I know I was listening to a couple different songs and I started thinking, I was like, then I started grabbing a couple different lyrics. I'm like, I think I could make like a rodeo song. And I was just started keeping going and like just kept putting words down, then just keep repeating and then putting words down, then trying to build off of, I mean, just whatever I could and get as many as I could down before I ran out of gas.
Have you do you kind of find yourself in a certain doing certain things that helps you write more? Does that make sense? Do you catch yourself coming up with songs like I know we talked to a lot of people that if they're on the road,
Yeah.
they seems to be a pretty popular answer. But
Yeah, because that's a big thing. I mean, like just driving along. I mean, I've always had ideas just pop in my head, like, because I've always wanted a drive-in song and everything. So I've just got like 8 different notes of different lyrics that I can just form off if I ever needed an idea for a time. And,
mm-hmm.
but that was a big thing. Then, I mean, even listening to other songs, I'm just thinking, like, I'd love to write a song like this.
Mm-hmm. Was there do you remember as far as that original music? Do you remember kind of when you first started looking into who wrote these songs? Did that ever pop in your mind as far as a certain? You remember that as far as some hit song, and then you actually dig into who's writing this stuff.
I never really did, I guess. Thinking about it now, I just like, because for a while, I just like, oh, yeah, that's Alan Jackson's song.
Right.
And didn't really dig into it much, but like, I mean, just like recently in the past year, pretty much, when I've like gotten a little more into the depth and into seeing and stuff, and I hear a song that I really like, and then I start looking into it, like, who did write this? I want to know who was on this and where do I find them?
And that can be a deep rabbit hole to
Yeah.
to go down, which is cool. I think that's part of the streaming thing. It's harder to read those notes and whatnot
Yeah,
compared
Yeah.
to
especially when
back
you're
in the day.
driving.
All right,
Yeah, don't
well,
do that, folks. Yeah, all
yeah.
right. So well, I have a couple things. BJ, can you tell us a little bit about your? You told us a little bit about your support team. Can you tell us a little bit more about the folks that kind of maybe behind the scenes that kind of help you out?
Yeah, so I mean, we got just a small team up here in Nebraska, and then we got Dave Gibson down there in Nashville. He's always been a great friend, and just, I mean, has a wealth of knowledge on everything. Like, if it's related to music or Nashville, he probably knows it.
For sure.
And then having a team up here that's, I mean, we're close knit, not just a lot of people with a booking agent and a manager. Both of them are helping out a lot. Just getting, I mean, we've got a full, almost entirely full summer schedule already with very little dates left open.
Nice.
So that does help an extreme amount having those people to just, I mean, pretty much sacrifice their time and being willing to just kind of bear down and hit it hard.
Yeah, and I know. So shout out to Casey because she originally was the one that got us connected, and then also Dr. Mike I see in the chat. I did forget Larry, the cable guy, is also from Nebraska. So
Yeah.
all right, well, tell me what you've learned about the business so far, because I imagine that could be kind of overwhelming. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure your trip to Nashville or trips to Nashville helps kind of understand some of the things that are going on. But
Oh
can you
yeah.
tell us a little bit about that journey, about learning about, obviously it's more than just performing the music, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly it's a big thing. I mean, just kind of not my own quote, but it is like how history repeats itself, and in the country music scene right now, it's showing definitely
Yeah.
to where, I mean, a lot of the newer artists are coming out with, I mean, it's the ones that are really getting a lot of attention. It's more of like Western songs. I mean, sounds like Marty Robbins stuff. Sounds like, I mean, Alan Jackson. It's getting that real country music sound back into it is a big part of it. Like it is repeating.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you don't have to look too far, but you see folks like, I don't know, folks that are super hot right now, Zach Top and
Yeah.
Braxton Keith and William Beckman, folks like that are revitalizing that sound.
Yeah.
So, did you know from the get go that that's kind of the sound that you,
Yeah.
not necessarily exactly like those folks, but in a similar vein? Is that something that you knew from the get go? That's what your sound was going to be.
Pretty much, because I mean, when I started right on Johnny Cash. I mean, and that's all I played. I mean, like every Johnny Cash song, I knew it note for note, word for word, and that's all I knew. I mean, like after that, it's like out of my area, but
Right.
that really shaped a lot for me. And then I just kind of slowly got into other stuff around that area, like Merle Haggard and Waylon and stuff, and a lot of that, and I shaped a lot of my guitar playing around Waylon Jennings and stuff, just kind of the way I play guitar and even sometimes sing. And that's always been my big thing, was like my motto. I mean, back then and even now is like, it's got to have twang.
For sure. I'm curious I assume that you have an opportunity to get to meet some of the folks that you're playing music for. What are some of the comments that folks come up to you after the show and hopefully compliments, but what are the things that folks are saying to you?
A lot of, I mean, I think probably the most common ones would be probably of asking how old I am, and then just saying like how when I start singing, they're like, I didn't expect that to come out of you.
For sure. That's a big compliment.
Yeah. And then
Um,
just how, I mean, I'm always playing older songs. I really don't play a whole lot that's newer. I mean, the newest stuff I play is probably Zach Top.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice. Soul Gravy.
I was gonna ask if you had to give one Johnny Cash song,
What's the go-to?
what's the go-to Johnny Cash song?
It'd have to be Folsom Prison Blues.
Okay.
That's been my go-to since I pretty much started playing music, and that's always one I can kind of fall back on.
What's an underrated Johnny Cash song? You got one of those?
Oh, underrated ones. I mean, there's a lot, but I think probably one of my favorite ones that really aren't popular would probably be, I think, uh, there's a lot, but Get
Right.
Rhythm would be a really big one I love.
That one, yeah. Well, that one gets you moving, even
Yeah,
with
Yeah.
for sure.
with very little percussion. It still gets you. It's yeah,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
super percussive on the guitar on that one.
Uh,
Um, what just to fill in on that, how many Cash songs can you slide into a set list or you know?
Well, I mean, without being the Johnny Cash tribute band, I'm I
we'll touch
It
on
went
that
down
later.
over a lot of years. Because I mean, I at one point, I mean, he could throw one on. I could just start on it and go. But I mean, I could probably still run at least 10 to 20 into a whole set list.
Okay. So, but now with your own music now,
Yeah.
do you layer in a couple each set or?
Yeah, normally I'll always put Folsom Prison in there, and then even I've Been Everywhere is a big one. I mean, it's a Hank Snow, but Cash
Sure.
done it too. So
Right. Nice. Very
Yep.
cool. Well, I think I did want to ask you about. I know you've got some new single coming out on Valentine's Day. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
yep, that's a single we picked out of our Whiskey Broken Heart EP as to put out with its own single for that, specifically because I mean it is a pure love song. It's I mean just about as much of a love song as you could probably get, and I mean it's got the traditional country sound to it and of a real country song, and I fell in love with it pretty much hearing it, and then getting to do my own cut on it was an insanely awesome experience and everything. Just getting to be in the studio with those guys and getting to record such an amazing song with Dave Gibson, like I said,
Yeah,
being
super
there and
cool.
doing that, I'm really excited to put this one out as its own single.
All right, so folks, you heard it here. Hopefully, you'll hear it other places, but make sure and go find BJ wherever you stream your music and give that tune a pre-save. And while you're there, give him a follow because that
Yeah.
helps significantly as well. So appreciate that. I think we're about at halftime. Speaking of Whiskey Broken Heart, I think that's the one we're going to play. So
All
can
right.
you tell us a little bit about this song specifically?
Yeah, Whiskey Broken Heart, another one by Dave Gibson there, and I mean, when he sent it to me, I knew I'm like, that is about as country as a country song can get, pretty much. I mean, it's got just about everything you could think of when you're talking about a country song. It's whiskey and a broken heart. So I mean, what better could you get?
Yeah, it's
But
perfect.
it's your
Yeah.
classic love heartbreak song.
Cool. Well, we're going to listen. We're going to go Silent Soul Gravy and let's give it a
Right.
spin.
All right, here we go.
It feels like one of those nights, ain't nothing going right. There's a little bit more in my mind. It happens all the time. Start thinking about me and you, end up back on the stool. Shot of something will change my mood. It's gonna take more than one or two, or some Kentucky, Tennessee. It don't matter to me, 'cause I'm throwing them down. Hit me again. I'm trying to drown what could have been. When you're running from the truth, 80 proves a real good place to start. But when you're working on a whiskey broken heart. Y'all never seen a girl like this. Have I told you about her kiss? What she does with her take me with is something that you can't ever miss. Still have a little sympathy. If you lost her, I bet you'd be throwing them down. Hit me again. I'm trying to drown what could have been. When you're running from the truth, 80 proof's a real good place to start. When you're working on a whiskey broken heart.
There we go.
Yeah, man.
Can't get up and dance to that. You got a problem.
Yeah, Fred Astaire would have been moving.
Yeah, you would have been.
Um,
I get early. I don't, man, I think you'll take this as a compliment, but I get like early Randall King vibes from that song.
Yeah. Yep. I love Randall King. I've
Yeah,
met
great.
him a couple times.
I was trying to think, in my head, I catch myself doing that too as I'm listening to stuff, just naturally. And for Joe Nichols was the first person that came to mind, but then as I was listening, I was like, it's different than that, but
Yeah.
the tone was in the ballpark anyway. So
Who was playing lead guitar on that?
That would be Aaron Curry
Okay,
out of Nashville.
nice. He was getting after it.
did you make the trip in to record that stuff, or is that
Yep.
okay?
Yep. Because we went to Nashville there. I think that was because we made two different trips to do two different sessions on it. And I think that was on our first trip. We went and did Whiskey Broken Heart, and that was my first time ever in one of the Nashville studios. So it was definitely a new and different experience.
Was it something that, I imagine it, in some ways that can be kind of an overwhelming thing. I mean, or was it just pretty comfortable considering you had been working with, kind of you were familiar with some folks already.
Yeah, it was definitely a little intimidating at first, just walking in and seeing everything because we went down to Curb Studios and recorded there,
Nice.
Hmm.
and so it's definitely a little intimidating seeing everything in there and be like, oh, this is like where
Right.
Tim McGraw and like the
Everybody.
Judds,
Right.
this is where they were at.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool though. Well, at least you had folks in your corner as you're walking
Yeah,
in, so I'm sure they were trying to make you feel at home as much as possible as well.
yeah, it was definitely helpful just having people there I knew, and then I mean, Dave helped a lot, just helped me out with, I mean, just getting vocals down, being encouraging and being sarcastic.
Lightening the mood.
Yeah.
What a random question I'm curious of what your answer would be. If you could put your music on a TV show or a movie soundtrack, what comes to mind for you?
Oh, I think between like a TV and a movie, it'd probably be either on like probably either I'd love to get a look would too, but where if it was on Yellowstone, that was a big thing I loved seeing. I mean, a lot of newer artists were getting shown on Yellowstone and stuff, so
Hmm.
that was kind of cool. I felt like it's like, oh yeah, that's I remember listening to them when they're just starting out. Now they're on Yellowstone, so that's kind of cool. That would be kind of one of them. Then I mean, just a lot of the different kind of Clint Eastwood, those kind of Western cowboy movies.
Absolutely.
Did you watch the Yellowstone stuff just trying to pick out the songs just to see if you knew? I
Yeah,
mean,
a
I
couple
caught
times.
myself doing that just to see, just to pick out the songs. Like, I know that one. I know
Yeah,
that one.
because I
Don't know that one.
remember
Gotta
hearing
go
Coulter
find
Wall on Yellowstone for the first time. I was like, "That's Coulter Wall. I know
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
know this
super cool.
song."
it.
Even if the show isn't, I don't know, at least I found, even if the show, I enjoyed it fine, but isn't your favorite, like just the things that they did for independent artists, some of
Oh
them,
yeah,
that were newer, but also some of them that have been out doing it for 10, 15, 20 years that hadn't gotten, that kind of audience. So,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, they did some great things for folks we care about. So that was pretty cool.
It's still going with Landman too. So,
hmm
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yep.
That's a pretty rocking soundtrack so far. There's some good
I'm
stuff on there.
I'm behind on that one, but
That's all right. I got a playlist up for it if you need it. It's there. All right, BJ. Since we're kind of close, I guess we're not as close as we were a couple weeks ago, but pretty close to the start of the new year. Any short-term goals that maybe looking at this year that you want to try to accomplish?
The main thing I think we're looking at this year, I know we're trying to get another plan to go down to Nashville for another session for a set of songs, get those ready, and then kind of get pretty much some more ammo loaded for that to push out for this year. But the big goal, I think, within, I mean, this year, maybe into next year, is to put out a full album. Is kind of the main goal we're looking at, is get a full album and get kind of a little more exposure nationwide.
Nice. Um, what are some of the things other than doing random podcasts like this one? What are some of the things that you do to help maybe kind of behind the scenes? You know, you got new music coming out. What are some things that you're doing to try to, I guess, make everybody aware?
I mean, I think one of the things that really helps a lot, and it just kind of started to get over with, but is the state fair managers conventions, because we went up to South Dakota for the Rocky Mountain Fair Manager Convention, which is like, it's probably 10, 13 different states throughout the Rocky Mountain range that all the different fairs and their managers come to book their acts for, whether it's, I mean, monster trucks, for tractor pulls, or musicians, or whatever. And that's a big way to really kind of venture out and get into different states and get a little more exposure, which, I mean, that's because we go to the Nebraska one here. We've gone for the past couple of years, and then that helped a lot boost kind of my jumpstart career and everything else.
Nice. How did you find out about this, or how did you end up knowing? All right, this is a place we need to go press some flesh and kiss some babies.
Yeah, because we figured out. I mean, the one here in Nebraska, we found it a couple years ago because they're like, "This is what you need." That was just like what all the musicians said. Like, if you want to get booked at bigger acts and venues, you go to the Fair Manager Convention, and you can showcase with a band there and have a booth and everything. And I mean, on the first year, it was insane, the reaction of what we got. I mean, we had a line at our booth after I got done at the convention there, and it's like of bookings. And so our first year was packed, and it's just kind of gone up since then. And then the
Did,
one in Rapid City, that was one Casey found. She had seen it somewhere, and she's like, "We should go to this, and you can get a booth and you can showcase after so many years." So we got a room and everything. We didn't get to showcase anything, but we just got to stay in our room. And I mean, I just pretty much sit around, try to lure people into the room with something, and then just ask them what they wanted to hear and see if I could play it or play something like it, and press them enough to book us.
that's cool. Soul Gravy likes chocolate and peanut butter, but we'll get to that later. So going into that first convention, I know you said you were maybe a little bit surprised, or taken aback at how many folks wanted to learn about what you had going on. But did you have any idea what you were getting into?
Kind of. I mean, it was definitely a just out of the world kind of experience of, I mean, at that time we just kind of had a thrown together band of a bunch of different guys and 3 or 4 practices in, and just a short set list that we could do. I think we can only do 15 or 20 minutes of songs, and just trying to do my best out there of what I could do. And
Yeah,
and just seeing the amount of people who wanted, who came back, because I mean, I played everything from the Johnny Cash to George Strait and Garth Brooks, and just trying to keep right in my range of where I was comfortable and where I thought that a lot of people would be comfortable out of, just knowing those older songs. And 2 years later, 3 years later, those songs are coming back into action now.
yeah, it's good timing. Well, it's cool to hear. Sometimes it's a little bit, or it can be in the music business, where it's hard to pinpoint, especially with streaming. Might see a song start to do a little bit better, or whatnot, but sometimes it's hard to pinpoint exactly, what is the catalyst to kind of move your career forward. And I think it's super cool to hear about a, face-to-face interaction that ended up having a pretty awesome impact
Yeah,
for you and opening some doors that maybe you didn't know about, right?
yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool.
Just getting to, I mean, get in that scene there, and then kind of it helped me branch out just in the whole Nebraska area and get to know a lot of other musicians as well. So that, I mean,
Yeah, it's huge.
it's kind of like having other friends that are like me.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Well, that's cool.
What about social media? We talk to a lot of people, that they kind of have to dive. They didn't grow up necessarily with social media, so they have to kind of dive back into it and and learn to use it for to promote their music. Kind of, is it pretty natural for you to just navigate social media, or is it still something you have to kind of be, I guess, if it's something that comes natural or if it's something you got to work with?
Yeah, it's kind of in between. I mean, like, I understand like how to do it, what you need to do, and like it's like, oh yeah, you got to post this much, you got to post this kind of content, and then you got to do it on this day at this hour for and post it for that long and everything. And like I've started to kind of get into it, and for a while I was doing. I mean, right when I was still in high school, I was on TikTok just trying to do something, and I was just playing music in my room and just posting songs and stuff, different cover songs. And then once I moved out and started doing my own thing, I just kind of fell off the wagon for a long ways. And then getting into my own business again, I was like, I need to keep promoting because that is probably the biggest uh, aspect of promotion is social media. I mean, that's the biggest way to really do it anymore. If you're not on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or something like that, then it's hard to get noticed by a lot of those people and just get a crowd.
Hmm.
And it's gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't know what else to put out. Like, I've put out the same video in a different environment 3 times now.
Right. We're all, I don't think you're alone in that setting. There's lots of folks that sometimes scratch their head and go, I'm not exactly sure how else to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do you like doing those lives where you can sit down and play random songs? Do you?
Yeah, I do like it. I mean, I don't do it enough, I already know, but I do enjoy
Gotcha.
doing that. Just getting, I mean, it's similar to having a performance, just kind of getting to mess around and just kind of play in front of people. And I
Mhm.
mean, like I said, I don't do it enough as I should, but when I
well,
do, I always do enjoy because I
But
get good feedback out of it, and
it's
it does.
yeah,
It's just something fun to do.
yeah,
yeah.
it's
The
great.
instant feedback is a cool thing about it.
I totally agree. Also, cheaper gas, um, especially if you're in
Uh,
western central Nebraska, right? Everything's a little ways away.
Yeah.
I'm curious, do you have anybody that you go to for unbiased advice, maybe other artists or somebody that you've met along the way that maybe's, I don't know, a couple steps further down the road, or maybe has already experienced some things that you can kind of go to and get tips or heads up on?
I I always talked about it because I always tell people about it. I'm like, I wish I could ask like Cody Johnson or Randall King or any of like Braxton Keith. I wish I could just ask them like, is this like something you went through, or like, is this normal thing? Is this not a normal thing? Like, just for advice on like what to do to better it. Because I mean, I try to always ask because I got the chance to talk to Marty Stewart when he was in Nebraska one time. I
Cool.
just conveniently somehow because I heard he was playing in town and I was headed towards a place and he jumped out of a vehicle and I was just pulling up as he was getting out. So I came over there and talked to him for a little bit and
Ah,
he
that's cool.
just I mean the advice he was given is just like kind of like start playing your own music and get a band together and just got to start playing your own music
Right.
and getting your own name out there.
Yeah, it makes sense. We do have a pretty salty question in the chat. Every once in a while, we'll get a
Mhm.
really good one. I think this one's a good one. So, from one former rancher to another rancher, Cynthia, one of our favorite viewers, asked, "What is BJ's favorite part of ranch life, and how It compares or contrasts to his favorite parts of his music career. So if you don't like the question, just don't yell at me. Cynthia, I'll give you her contact info later.
I think probably the favorite part of living on the ranch, I mean, and working on a whole ranch was just being able to grow up in like my own music kind of lifestyle. I mean, should have been a cowboy. I mean, I kind of was able to live that song pretty much, and getting to be able to pretty much have that background behind me always does help. And being like, I I've done it before. Can't say I do it now, but it's kind of like it's always been like just a part of like how kind of it shows into my songs and the way I perform of just kind of being authentic.
Yeah. Well, there are tons of, how do I say this? There are tons of folks out there who are purporting to be something different than maybe they actually are. And I do think there's,
Me more cowboy.
yeah, I do think there's a world, I think there's a world of folks that really do appreciate that authenticity. So,
Yeah.
kudos to you. I mean, you just be yourself. So,
It comes across in the music too. To be honest,
100%.
yeah, just listening to it. Like I said today at work, I got my earbuds in and I'm doing my thing, and yeah, it definitely feels authentic just listening, even through an iPhone in Memphis, Tennessee. So
Yeah, it's cool. Are we ready to do a little rapid fire soul gravy?
yep, yep.
All right. So, BJ, these are well, they're not incredibly difficult, but the shorter the answer, typically the better. So I'll just give you that. Spotify Wrapped came out probably about 30 days ago. I don't know if you listen to Spotify or Apple or whatever streaming services. Do you any idea who was on your Spotify Wrapped or your Apple?
Yeah, I know I had George Strait, Randall King, and Zach Top and Will Jones were I think my top five.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Very good. Uh, Desert Island album. You are stranded on a desert island and you get to take one album with you. Which album is going with you?
I think I'd take probably that's a hard one. I'd have to take one of Alan Jackson's though. Probably I think one of the Good Time albums, I think is what it was.
You can cheat and be like greatest hits
Yeah, greatest
volume
hits is
one.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Volumes 1 through 8.
Yeah.
All right. Dinner with one historical figure.
I would love to. I think honestly, if I could go with Frank Sinatra,
Oh, old Blue
that would
Eyes.
be one I'd love to kind of meet and socialize with.
I've got questions for him. All right, that'd be cool. Um, uh, what does your ideal green room look like, or
Oh,
green space?
probably. I mean, couches, definitely. Uh, definitely drinks of all assortments, and orange juice for sure.
Okay, cool. This one actually is not a rapid fire question, but it did come in from the chat, so I need to ask it right
Okay,
quick.
good. I'm glad you saw that.
Yep. I'm supposed to ask you about your rodeo royalty family and who taught your mom to play bass.
Yep. So my mom was Miss Rodeo America of '91,
Oh, shout out to your mom.
and my dad, he's been a team roper pretty much all over the country, from Vegas to Houston and everything else. And so they did play a huge part in kind of that rodeo crowd, like Chancey Williams has and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Love
And
Chancey.
then uh, when I was in the Twin River band, the old band, we needed a bass player. We always needed a bass player because we never could find just one. And at the time, I wasn't able to drive because I wasn't old enough, and my mom was driving me. And so Brett, the main guy, he joked about saying, "You should teach your mom bass since she's driving you to all these." Well, things happen, and now my mom is my own bass player.
Wow, that's amazing. Highly cost efficient too. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful. It's tough to make fun of the bass player when it's your mom.
Yeah.
All right, back to the rapid fire. First concert that you ever attended?
John Party at Nebraska State Fair.
Okay, cool. Bucket list venues. Any venues that you go, man, if I could just play there, I think I've made it.
Pinnacle Bank in Lincoln is probably one of the biggest ones that I mean, I've just always loved going to different concerts there. And then, uh, probably, I mean, I'd love to do Red Rocks.
Yeah, that would be fun. What a cool venue that is. Ideal sponsor. So you could pick one company to sponsor you. What would that be? Who would that be?
It would have to be probably Cinch jeans, just
Okay.
for the amount of jeans and shirts I wear of theirs.
Yeah, very, very cool. And then my last question before we get to the big question of the evening, and maybe something before that, but tribute bands, yay or nay?
Oh, personally, I mean, I do like I like seeing it because it is cool kind of seeing that, but then from me as an artist of trying to make it as my own thing, it's like, why wouldn't you try to do your own? But I mean, I see where they're coming from, but then I also, from my perspective, it's like, well, they've already done that. They're already famous.
Right. Makes sense. Totally understand. All right, Soul Gravy.
So, our buddy Tater, in the chats asked if there somebody that you could duet with. Would there be a one person that I guess it wouldn't matter living or otherwise?
I think one of the duets that I have always wanted to do for pretty much as long as I've known the song, I think, was to do Yellow Rose of Texas with younger Dolly Parton.
That's going to be tough, but great choice.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, BJ, we appreciate the time as always. Guys, if you when you listen to this, make sure you go follow BJ on all of his socials and any other independent artists that you run across. Follow their socials, follow wherever you stream your music, and interact with the things that they post. Comment, like,
Pre-save.
and pre-save for the Valentine's Day single that's going to be coming out. All right, so this question started off as a joke on episode number 1, and now it is a requirement. I'm not sure how far this product goes
We're going to find out.
we're gonna find out how far this product goes west. But BJ, what is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Swiss rolls.
Okay, all right, we made it.
Apparently, it does travel.
Yeah, we
Yep.
made it to western central Nebraska.
Nice.
All right. So
Good
we got,
answer.
yeah, Little Debbie's and Cinch. Come on, guys.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
make it happen. Cool, man. Appreciate you taking time to chat with us. Great
Yeah.
job, and thanks
Yeah,
again.
thank you guys for having me on here.